Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
The Projection Booth is single-handedly the greatest film podcast you could ever listen to or could possibly want.
Top notch. 5 stars. This has quickly become one of my favorite film-related podcasts. Always interesting.
A completely unpretentious yet fully comprehensive look at films from all genres.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, Billy, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the IdModcast podcast. Joining us is Turtle Dork's replacement forever,
No!
Billy Das, the indie dork.
Take that, Turtle Dork! Boom!
We love you, Brian.
No! He's dead! I killed him.
The Y in Brian stands for Why Was I Replaced?
Billy Das, the indie dork. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Also joining us is Lisa Gullickson. This is the really Lisa Gullickson. No replacement. There's only one. Wife dork.
Be careful, Diana. They do not deserve you.
Also joining us is Brad Gullickson, mouth dork.
All the world's waiting for you and the power you possess in your satin tights, fighting for your rights and the old red, white, and blue. Make a hawk a dove, stop a war with love, make a liar tell the truth.
William Shatner School of Music.
What's the hawk a dove?
Make a hawk a dove.
Make a hawk.
Like turn a hawk.
Oh,
dove.
make a hawk a dove. I thought you were like haka, like
hawk a dove.
Oh, man.
A dove.
All our hopes are pinned on you.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith, the Disco Dork. Welcome to the IdModcast podcast review cast for Wonder Woman.
Yeah. I'm sorry I missed the earlier episodes this week. I was celebrating my dad's 73rd birthday, which I think makes him officially our oldest listener that we know of.
Well, congratulations on that.
Yeah, I'm not going to say fan because he does not approve of the swearing on this podcast.
Oh, okay.
Also, Lisa, those episodes, those are in the future.
Oh,
I was going to say this comes out first.
oh, that's okay.
But if it were coming out afterwards, you would know that Wife Dork is sorry.
So you don't have to download those apps.
Just skip this week.
Just skip them. Doesn't
right.
have Brian either, just Billy.
So
Yeah, I get that a lot.
in a way, this review cast is very long overdue. We should have been reviewing Wonder Woman films, live action films, a long time ago. But unfortunately, due to the world we live in, that's not the case. But I would say I'm glad now that we have the opportunity to talk about this film because that means it exists, and that is a very important thing. So let's talk about Wonder Woman. Patty Jenkins' entry into the DCEU. We initially had Man of Steel, directed by Zack Snyder, followed by Batman v Superman, also directed by Zack Snyder, and then Suicide Squad, directed by David Ayers, and now Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman. So this is the film that will jump off, I guess, not jump off, but lead into Justice League. And so it's been getting some rave reviews. It's been well received. It's got a really high Rotten Tomatoes score. And I'm pretty sure it broke 100 million.
100 million domestic and I think 220 worldwide.
Yeah. So it's off to a great start. Hopefully it will sustain that and make up its budget many times over so that we can continue to have Wonder Woman films. And not just Wonder Woman films, but female action superhero movies. So let's talk about Wonder Woman.
Billy,
Yes.
Because you're our guest.
you're a guest. What did you think? You took the kids to see this movie.
I did. I did take my kids to see
You
it.
dwed us.
I did. I went Thursday night with my wife for opening night just so I could see it before taking them. Because my girls, I don't know if you guys know this, but my girls are, I have 3 daughters. One's about to be 8. And I have a 5-year-old, and then I have a 3-year-old. The movie's definitely beyond the 3-year-old. Plus, she can't handle the Alamo no talking policy. But so I don't really want to get banned from the movie theater because I love going to the movie theaters.
As we learned later on in episodes.
So on Saturday, I took my girls to see it, and man, they just dug the ever-living heck fire out of that movie. I took my middle kid to the bathroom in the middle of the movie, and she literally the entire walk to the bathroom and the entire walk back from the bathroom was like, "I really like this movie. This movie is great." And my my 8-year-old, my almost 8-year-old, cried through the end of the movie. I think because she connected so much with the characters that were on screen in front of her, and she totally bought into them as people, and she was genuinely concerned about their well-being at the end of the movie.
We should mention at this point, if you're unfamiliar with the ItMod review cast, we spoil everything.
Absolutely everything.
So if you have not, for some reason, seen Wonder Woman at this point, hit pause, come back to us after you see the film.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, well, I think probably a lot of people saw it. I mean, I saw it twice. If you haven't seen it, I mean...
Honestly, it was really irritating that I was not able to see the film until Friday, and it seemed like my entire Twitter feed and Facebook family saw the film during Thursday's screenings.
Yeah.
And I was just desperate to be a part of that conversation, and it felt really weird to be denied it. But I saw the film.
Yeah.
And, for the last month, I've been living Wonder Woman comics in anticipation for the Patty Jenkins cinematic event. And, Twitter, when the embargo lifted on Monday and the flood of positive praise washed over us, my enthusiasm for this film was at like an unexpected high. And, this film really does so much right for the character that I was really happy to see. It is very much an origin story. It's bookend by contemporary Diana working in the Louvre.
Like you do.
Like you do. And she receives a package from Wayne Enterprises, and it's that famous or infamous portrait photograph that we saw in BVS of Wonder Woman and her howling commandos of World War I. And it's Diana's opportunity to flash back to how she entered man's world.
I thought that was a pretty cool setup.
The bookend?
Yeah, I thought that was
it.
really cool how they tied BVS to this and then allowed us to go into the past. I thought that made me want to go back and look at BVS to see if that picture, if the actors, because I didn't know.
Oh yeah, no, they're all there.
They were the ones that were cast in that photo. Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
And when you go back and you look at that photograph and you think about her dialogue from BVS, where she talked about 100 years ago, I decided to walk away from man's world. That's what flashes through my mind when you in the opening bookend. We're going to see why she turned her back after the events of this film. So it does set Wonder Woman up as kind of this weird tragedy from the start, because something's going to occur where she is not going to be as involved as she will be in Justice League. So the opening film, we're on Paradise Island, Themyscira. We get to see the Amazons in live action. Connie Nielsen's her mom. Robin Wright's her aunt. It's gorgeous and thrilling. And I welled up a couple times during those sequences just to see Themyscira portrayed faithfully. From what I've experienced in the comic books.
I responded positively to I like Connie Nielsen as Diana's mother, but I really loved Robin Wright as Diana's aunt. I can't remember her character's name.
Hippolyta is the mom, and the aunt is
Antiope?
Yeah.
Yes.
Man, Robin Wright was born to play that role. I loved her in this film. I've been a huge fan of hers more recently because of the House of Cards Netflix series, and in that series she plays Kevin Spacey's wife, and now she's trying to be, he's he's president of the United States, so she's first lady. But in that show, she has to stand next to and be the strength and the support of the guy in charge. So behind every successful man, there's a strong and supportive woman. Well, she has to be that strong woman, and she has to stand, and not even just thematically, but if she has to stand next to Kevin Spacey and opposite Kevin Spacey in many scenes in this show, and she carries it and she kills it, and a lot of times she steals the scene, and sometimes they don't always stick with his character in the show, and they'll focus on her for good bits, and she is just so good in that show. So I've become a huge fan of hers. So when I heard that she was cast in this film, I was naturally excited. But then to see her character in Wonder Woman, and just how commanding of a presence she was, and then how the physicality in the character, and then when I first watched the film, I felt like she was going to be not necessarily bad. I felt like she was going to be antagonistic. But the film plays out in how it does. But my second and third time watching it, knowing already how she was, who her character was, it just made it infinitely more enjoyable, knowing that, she was someone, like Brad, you mentioned that it made the story on Themyscira about two mothers raising the same daughter. And she was the in how in my household, how if my stepmom would say I can't do something, how I would go to my dad and say, hey Dad, can I do this, and vice versa. It was sort of a similar dynamic, because Diana's mother did not want her to train in the ways of the Amazonians on Paradise Island, but Diana's aunt, she said that she saw in her the potential and her greatness, and she wanted to harness that and nurture that. So the mom would say, no, you can't do something, and then she would go to her aunt secretly and do it. And I love that power dynamic between the two parents of this child.
But also both parents are operating from fear.
Yes.
Right. The aunt is afraid of
Ares.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I've been reading the Wonder Woman New 52, so now like Greek names are like just bouncing around in my head, and they all sound the same. She's afraid of Ares coming back and war breaking out, and she wants Diana to be prepared. But at the same time, the mother is going like, we don't want to nurture her gifts, because she has the type of gifts that once, initiated, it'll be like a beacon to the gods, like, come and get me. So they're both operating from this kind of fear.
And on Twitter at MuseGirl, she wanted to highlight that scene between Hippolyta and Antigone, where they are disagreeing about how to proceed with Diana, and you get to watch persuasion, consideration, and we watch a mind being changed.
Yeah.
I mean, that is something that you do not see terribly often in cinema, and certainly not in superhero cinema.
Well, I think it's something that's so hugely important to the movie is that they like Lisa, like you said, that they're both operating out of fear. And you can be afraid of something and avoid it and hope that you don't call attention to it. And that's not necessarily an unsound strategy, but you can also be afraid of something and embrace it and try and control the outcome of it by engaging with it. And I love their dialogue as parents, where Hippolyta comes around to the conversation because she sees the reason of the opinion that's being given to her. I saw her comment on Twitter. That is a key part of the movie to me, that they set that up from the beginning, that people's minds can be changed. That's really cool.
And they spend a good deal of time with Diana as a child before,
yes.
Gal Gadot can come in as Diana. You have two young actresses playing, 8-year-old Diana and then 13-year-old Diana. And those sequences, the way that Patty Jenkins shoots the young girl Diana running through Themyscira and witnessing all these Amazons perfecting their bodies through training, and the joy that young Diana, child Diana, expresses on her face, and the way the film lingers on that that sense of pun intended, wonderment that Diana has as a child, and how that wonderment extends not only all the way through Wonder Woman the film, but all the way to BVS when she's battling Doomsday and that smile crosses her face. This is what she has been dreaming of. She accomplishes the mission that she set forth as a child. And it's interesting to me, though, that on Themyscira, that Patty Jenkins and Warner Brothers really ground this mythological realm in a reality. They don't really explore the God side of the story.
No, not so much.
In this film. Yeah. There's a scene where you see Hippolyta basically reading a storybook origin of the Amazons to her daughter.
I love the visualization.
Yeah, there's talk of Zeus, and there's talk of Ares, and there's talk of their creation and their purpose. But it's not like in Marvel's Thor film, where the film opens up and there is Asgard, and you've got Volstagg, and you've got Odin, and you've got Heimdall. The gods are much more removed in this film.
But I think that's part of the importance of the film. I mean, because that like Chris Pine's Steve Trevor later on is like, well, what if there isn't an Ares? And even Hippolytus brushes off Diana by saying, that's just a story that I told you. Stop taking from that what it is that you need to do. Like they want you to keep your mind open to that.
And Diana fully believes and experiences that storybook as a reality.
Sure, absolutely.
Because her aunt in the night is training her to battle Ares.
Yeah, but so I mean, even just kids, like even working with my own kids and reading them stories and engaging with them and showing them stuff, like they routinely ask me questions or like, is this character a historical story or is this a fiction story? Like they understand the difference between fiction and reality, but they do not have the equipment to assess the story that's being told to them as whether it's a storified version of something that really happened or if it's a fictional version. They genuinely are not able to tell the difference, and that's because they're dumb. It's because they're kids and they don't know stuff.
Your kids are stupid, Billy. Yeah. Your kids are stupid.
I guess that there's a genuine sense of earnestness that kids approach the world and the information that comes into them. They want to believe and they take things in, and they don't have their guard up and their filters up that we do as grown-ups, where we've been burned too many times from something that doesn't work for us. Like kids are still very genuine, and I 100% bought into the fact that if she's raised on this island and that's the storybook that she's getting, that she can go from childhood through training all the way to that conversation with her mom where she's like, this is my holy mission. I have to do this because this is what we're taught. And then she gets the answer. It's complicated. Like, yes and no. You're right, but this is not correct. And there's a lot of stuff that you don't know. And like, I appreciate the movie as her journey through kind of sussing out the complicated gray areas of life.
So on Themyscira, Diana grows up. She is trained at first in secret by her aunt, but then eventually her mother accepts the necessity of her training and encourages it. And Diana grows to be a true warrior badass.
I think we do have to keep in mind, though, that to her, to this point, all danger to her has been theoretical. I find it fascinating that she is literally, since the battle with Ares, she is literally the only child on this island. So all of these women, all of these warriors are fighting to present something that they have experienced and they have fear of, and she has never seen. Yeah. So she was raised in this place where literally there was just no danger. There were small disappointments, arguments with her mother, but she has an innocence on Themyscira that is so extraordinarily preserved that you then see peeled away once the Germans arrive, and then the bubble of Themyscira is pierced, and that level of naivete is maintained so aggressively through the film. Sometimes well, and other times I think to kind of undermining her character.
So with Steve Trevor falling out of the sky, dressed in German attire, he's been spying on the Germans. He's gotten some intel on a new brand of chemical warfare that Danny Huston's Lufendor has been producing with the evil Dr. Poison. And he needs to get this intel back to the British forces. Now, you have like Fish Out of the Water Story Part 1 with Steve Trevor on Themyscira. There's a brief skirmish on the battle on the beaches. A few Amazons are killed. You get to see Robin Wright devastate some Germans with her bow and arrow.
So good.
And now the battle has arrived on Paradise Island. Diana does get to witness the theoretical become a reality as a bullet. I love that shot where you do see the bullet pass. She tracks this bullet and she tracks it right into a fellow Amazon, and she sees an Amazon fall down dead. And it is a stunning moment that I certainly appreciated. And now you have the origin of Wonder Woman. I think what's so interesting about the DC Comics trinity of superheroes, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, is you have, the Caped Crusader, the Dark Knight. He puts on the spandex because his parents were killed, and he takes his rage, his vengeance, and transforms that into a lifelong pursuit of justice. And that's why he is a hero. That's why he fights crime. Superman, he's the ultimate orphan. He's the ultimate Moses character. He ends up in Kansas. He puts on the spandex because Ma and Pa Kent brought him up to respect life and humanity. And if you have the ability to do something good in this world and you don't, that would be a sin. You need to fight the good fight because you have the ability to do so. Wonder Woman's story, and this is why I think Wonder Woman as a comic book character, as a character in general, is so essential to this time in Trump's America. Her story is she learns of terror and horror and the awfulness that is occurring outside of the paradise of Themyscira, and decides she can play a part in this. She can help these people. She makes your war her war. And I think at the very least, the Patty Jenkins films gets that perfectly. And when she learns of this great war, the war to end all wars happening across the ocean from this paradise that she has been living on, she needs to act because she knows in her she has the ability to affect change. And I think that's really rad.
I also like her idea, and this idea matures throughout the film, but the idea that, in terms of, okay, if you kill Ares, if you kill war, then what is ultimately left is people's goodness, and that people are ultimately good. And I like that idea of let's address the evil and let's preserve what's ultimately good about humanity. Let's get rid of the evil so that innocence can prevail. And even though, as we discover throughout the film, it's not as simple as just kill one god and everything is better, I do think that seed of people are good and worth protection. She doesn't like that. She's not so entirely jaded that no longer becomes true to her, I hope.
Well, this is where things get a little complicated based on the mythology that they have set up.
Yeah, I don't like that she checks out from the world for 100 years after the conclusion of this movie.
Agreed.
And I don't think, the conclusion of the movie, I didn't think justified that.
Agreed. But before we even get there, she... Early on, when Steve Trevor and Diana are together on Paradise Island, and they make a pact, and she decides she has to get this soldier off of her island back to his people so that she can go to where the fight is and end the fight, because Ares is somewhere out there, and my whole purpose, my aunt has raised me to kill the god of war, to fight the very concept. And you have the groundedness of Steve Trevor, who's saying, you know, like he's just using her to get off that island so he can get back to the front, so he can get the intel to his people, and if not stop the war, aid in the battle for his team, right, his side.
Yeah.
And the story shifts. The next act begins. Now we have left Paradise Island, and here we are in London, and we have the second fish out of water story with Diana in the hellscape that is 1916 London, the industrial, polluted miasma of that is that city. She is revolted by it, and I like all that stuff. I like her interacting with man's world, being told that she doesn't belong in this round table with these generals because she's a lady, and ladies have no business in the affairs of men, right? And I like her interactions with Etta Candy and saying, you know, well, we gotta put a dress on you because you can't just walk around naked like you are. We got to put you in a proper lady's attire, and her rebellion from all of those fashion choices. That's all very fun. It's really in that next stage where she starts to make her way to the front where my frustrations with the film begin. I don't know. Did you guys want to talk about London before we moved on? Is there anything else in that aspect?
I think one thing I don't want to skip is the exchange on the boat when they were talking about that, like, I don't know, 15-volume treatise on physical pleasure, and their exchange about, what, you don't sleep with women? Like, we can't sleep next to each other because I'm a woman, or what's going on? And how she's been raised in this environment completely, like, she's never been near a man before, but the result is she has zero reservations. She's not at all concerned about him, or, she has zero reservations about him, his presence, and he has all of these bound up reservations being near her.
I mean, she has not been raised to
Fear
be
men.
embarrassed of sex. You know? It is an act of reproduction, but it doesn't require a man for pleasure. So
Right.
if you're looking for pleasure, I don't need you. She basically says that to him.
Right.
And I love the interplay between Pine and Godot.
I think they're so funny. I think that scene was genuinely funny and really sweet. And it also set up the Chekhov's gun of, well, they're going to fuck. Right?
Wow. All right. Before I enjoyed that scene too, but on my second watch and definitely on my third watch, it kind of bothered me because that scene was so. It happened so abruptly when they just leave the mascara. Like, they just passed through the bubble field from the blue night clear skies with the mascara to like the oceans or whatever. Well, when they get away, like she has a touching moment with her mother, because her mother says, you know what, she's expecting her mom to stop her because she's
Instead,
sneaking.
she like lays on some serious mom guilt. Goodbye.
And she says, the first time I saw it, I thought her mom said, well, if you go, I thought she said something to the effect of, it's going to be hard for you to kind of come back, or difficult to come back. But the second and third time I saw it, she tells her, well, if you leave, you can never come back. And her mom's hurt by that, but her mom also understands her trust in what must be done and what Diana's ultimately going to do either way.
Right.
And so she sends her daughter off, and it's an emotional moment.
But not without saying, like, you were my greatest love, and now you're leaving, and now that is my greatest sorrow.
Right. So it's a very emotional
Sad.
moment. And again, Diana this is all she's known her whole life. Maybe she's 19, 20 years old. I don't know how old she's supposed to be. But whatever, her childhood to the beginning of her adult life, this only place, this person, her mom, these people is all she's known. And now she's leaving. Her mom's telling her, well, you're not going to be able to come back. I'm not going to see you again. Even if she was just going away for college, she's coming home on the weekend. She sends her off. Diana turns around, And she has this. She goes into this conversation
No,
like,
not necessarily.
she does.
No, because what happens is they go onto this boat, and Chris Pine starts to make a space for himself away from her, and she's like, "What are you doing?"
No, before that, dude, I've seen it 3 times. And I just can't. So
Okay.
they depart. Her mother turns her back, and then she looks as Diana turns away. Diana looks at her, and then turns to face the front of the boat. What do you call it? Whatever. The next scene, it cuts to her saying, "Okay, so when we get to this place," she sits down. She says, "All right, so you're going to take me to Ares, take me to the front line, because I'm going to use this to kill him." Like,
Yeah,
She is passionless. She is passionless. When she sees the battle on the beach, there is zero concern. She is not horrified.
No, that's
when she
not true.
When her mom departs, she's not sad. She's
she
passionless.
is righteous. I don't think she is passionless. When she sees the violence for the first time, she is stunned by that violence. And certainly when we go to the front and she sees how we're ignoring all these people being butchered around us because there's nothing that can be done,
Right,
she is certainly
right.
disgusted by it. But she is righteous. She leaves because she has the purpose of a graduate, of a college student. She believes in her being that she was put on this earth to kill Ares. And yes, her relationship at that moment she has to sever herself from her parents, but her mom, the reason she has to do that is because she has a holy mission. She's a different type of human being. She's not just going to college. She has a mission.
Yeah, but it's not
I
just a
understand
holy
that.
mission though. Like she's leaving the island because literally her other mom got killed by the machinations of Ares. That's 100% how she sees it. Like that, it takes a lot for you to want to leave your home and go out and maybe risk never ever coming back to see your family. Like the instigator for that is the death of Antiope on the battlefield.
But I
But then she goes right into some pretty light patter.
I felt like the instigator for that is Chris Pine's when he's wrapped up with the lasso of truth, saying, "Look, this is what's going to happen. The world is going to suffer," because that's when she makes the big case.
Right.
Like, we can't. You have to send all of us. We have to go. Like, we can't just send him back.
Right.
We got to go with him.
Right.
So I feel like that's the instigator for her wanting to go. And I believe that yes, she's okay. I got a mission. I got to do this.
Yeah.
But like Lisa said, like. She goes from this real. The film makes that moment a strong emotional moment between her and her mother departing, but then it cuts to that lighthearted. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with lighthearted interplay, because again, I agree, their chemistry, their back and forth, I really dug it and I liked it. But I just felt that was kind of jarring. That you go from this, because that lady that was sitting next to me, like, she cried. I'm not saying that that was anything wrong. I mean, she had an emotional response to that, and so for me, maybe that's why I'm thinking it in this way or taking it in this way. But this lady was crying as Diana was departing, and because this mother was sitting with her daughter, so I'm only assuming she's putting herself in her shoes, seeing her daughter off.
It is
But then
it is a pretty rapid transition from the Themyscira story to the birth of her mission to fish out of water comedy.
Yeah, but that's what sets up the whole fish out of water nature. She literally can't even be in the same space as a man without having a weird fucking conversation about human dynamics and how they interact with members of the different sex.
I'm not even saying like that conversation should not happen and be there, but like if they had just a single beat of her turning around after she departs and they cut away from showing her mother see her off, she sits down and I'm leaving my mom, but I got to do this. Like,
Yeah,
but
everything is
none of
very
that.
compact in this film. Like, to me, like, if this was 3 movies, her and Themyscira, her falling in love, and then ultimately killing Ares, and if it was more spaced out, I think that the tonal shift wouldn't be so jarring. But a lot has to happen in this film to set up who Wonder Woman is.
I agree with that.
Everything is very squeezed in.
Yeah. And so, but when that conversation, like if I don't have that, if I don't think about that, and I just look at the conversation and their banter and their chemistry together, like, I loved all of that.
Yeah, it's really
and that's
cute.
what made it so striking for me, because I'm having like this emotional moment, like, damn, like she's never going to see her mom again. But all of a sudden, like,
But isn't that the thrill of the roller coaster? The ups and the downs,
it's like,
Darren.
it's not 90. If it takes time to get up, it's like clank, 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 not clank, clank. So, but again, I enjoyed it. Once they started having that conversation, all of that was fun. And, you know, then they ultimately, she wakes up. They're now in, was it London?
Yeah.
Or whatever. And so, yeah. And then eventually they make their way. Well, they assemble a team first.
Well, before we even get to the team, I kind of want, as the resident, Superman maniac in this film, I just wanted to get your take on the Richard Donner nod.
The alleyway fight?
Yeah.
Well, I love that.
Right?
And, yes, on this podcast, I say plenty of times how, Zack Snyder's Man of Steel has become my Superman film. Like Henry Cavill, I've taken him as my Superman now as in my adult life. But again, Richard Donner's film was the first film I ever saw in the movie theater as a 2-year-old. Like that was my first movie in a theater. And so, just the same reason why Superman is so important to me today, it was important to me as a child. And Donner's films were because I wasn't even reading comics then, so Donner's films were the reason why Superman meant so much to me. And to have that nod after previously we talked about Diana getting outfitted in that current society's attire so she could fit in. Her final bit of wardrobe or accessory is a pair of glasses.
I love.
And, she looks very much like a reporter-esque. She has a nice hat and a nice little trench coat or whatever. And then there's that moment in the alley where they're about to be, I guess, taken by these armed criminals. And you have that moment where it's reflective of the Donner film where Superman deflects the bullet in the alley for Lois. But Diana, she deflects the bullet with her bracelet for Steve. And, I thought that was excellent, but also Superman aside, just setting up her ability and capability in this situation, because Steve, again, to his credit, he's not used to this. So for him, he's like, okay, stay back. I got this. This is going to be dangerous. Get out of the way. But then he quickly learns. And that's what I like about Steve Trevor's character. He quickly learns to accept and respect who Diana is and her ability and what she can do, because he has no choice. He can't deny it, and she's performing these feats right before him. And so I like that scene shows Steve Trevor who he is on this journey with at this point. So when she's asking to go to the front lines, and plus he's just seen a bunch of Amazonians just whoop ass on a beach, so he has no reason to deny or doubt her capabilities.
It's interesting though, like just looking at her power set and the way it is revealed over the course of this movie. The Amazons are not invincible. You do see them get killed by German soldiers. Bullets do kill them. And you see early on in her discovery of her own abilities of strength, where she makes that tremendous leap on Themyscira and starts smashing her fists into the wall. And you can see that she has a superhuman capability. And you get the impression in this film that capability is not something that every Amazon shares. And there is an illusion in Themyscira that she may be more than this clay baby story.
Oh, with the bandaging and her wound healing up.
Right.
So yeah, it's on my third watch. This time I'm thinking, like, 'cause she's doing, as you see in the marketing, she's deflecting a lot of bullets with her bracelets. But I'm unsure of, there are several characters in the film whose power set are not defined. Like I'm not clear on. So in one moment she's deflecting bullets. Another she's putting her bracelet up to deflect the bullet. Another moment a character takes like this huge metal thing and throws at her, and it just breaks on her. Like it just bursts explodes on her. Like it doesn't bother her. So I'm thinking, like, well, is she impervious to trauma?
I think she is.
Why is she blocking bullets then? Like
that's what I think that's what they set up at the beginning of the movie. That's what Antiope spends the whole introduction of the movie telling her is like it's like the Matrix, man. Like that's she's Neo, and he's saying what like that whole speech. You think that's air that you're breathing, right? That's what Antiope is trying to impart to her on the island. Is like, stop fucking playing like you're an Amazon warrior princess. You're fucking not. You're a god. You don't have to do this stuff. And the movie, I think it's
But she never quite says that in the beginning.
No, she doesn't say it. And Diana doesn't know. And so she literally doesn't have the confidence to take on these other things until she gets to the end of the movie. That's why you see it progress and do that, because she opens herself to the possibilities of her power. But she doesn't know that, I think, from the get-go. She doesn't know that she's a god. She thinks she's a clay baby with a lady mommy. And that's it. That's all that she sees. She trained really hard. She doesn't understand that other people, I think, that's unusual for them, or what the extent of the unusual abilities that she has are.
Yeah.
I think it has to unfold like that.
Yeah, because even after that, like after he smashes that thing on her, she goes outside and she's still like deflecting bullets with her wrists. And for me, I'm like, look, I don't have to put my arm.
I do think that when jumping ahead to the reveal of her natural birth, it does not quite work for me. It actually doesn't work for me at all, because the way the mythological characters are handled in this film is so on the fringes, and she is being denied and by the human characters by Steve Trevor so much, and the film even denies her that Ares is the stopgap, right? Like you kill him, you're all good. Everyone will come to their senses. That I feel like that if the film had integrated the mythological a little more earlier on, I would buy the final revelation.
I knew that. Excuse me. I knew that earlier on. I suspected that earlier on. I knew she wasn't. I mean, obviously, if she's built from clay and given life from Zeus,
I'm not saying that. It's.
I'm thinking like she's a god, a demigod.
Of course, absolutely. I'm not saying that is a surprise, but I'm saying it does not work the way it is executed in this film.
I don't understand.
Well, being that they said that you even if in fact it just was she was made from clay and her mom didn't have a sleep with Zeus or whatever, I feel like, well, if Zeus brought a piece of clay to life, then she's a god. She's
extraordinary.
The Themyscira is so grounded in a reality. The mythology feels very much like a storybook to me. Like it is literally a storybook for her. Yeah. And when it's finally revealed, the Ares and I guess Zeus just doesn't feel like a tangible thing.
I do agree with that. I think that there could have been more of a crescendo of this unveiling of magical reality, because even in the discovering of her powers, it was like, okay, she has one instance on Themyscira, and then, a second kind of slight, more just using her warrior powers, and then all of a sudden at the end, she has this extraordinary confidence and she taps into that power. But also with Ares, if we had seen, because like we meet Ares at the end and he has the ability to be a reflection, and now he's on the other side of the window, and now he's big, and now he's little,
and now he's like every other comic book super CGI explosion fest.
And there's nothing in that reality that says that that's a possibility. And I think that it would have been a little bit more exciting if there was more of those like small reveals.
Yeah, and that's what I meant when I said multiple characters' powers are undefined. Like, again, with Ares, but. Like going back to what you said, Lisa, this movie feels like, to me, it feels like maybe some things were cut out, or there were things that needed to be put in. Again, that emotional beat after her departure. Again, or what you just mentioned, some things put in there about the gods to kind of.
I just don't think they wanted to embrace the insanity of the Greek myths.
And I think that's something they could revisit in like a sequel. Yeah. Like I think like if they do a sequel. I mean, that's something that, instead of having her be on Earth, not Earth, but in our world doing stuff, I wouldn't mind seeing them just go back to Themyscira and just be there and then touch upon, like, the gods and stuff. Because at that point, we'll have had, like, parademons, we'll have had doomsday and shit like that. Sure. So now go and embrace, like, the Greek mythology stuff. Because at that point, like, we're full-fledged into all the comic book shit now. So I think that maybe like playing devil's advocate, maybe that's what they are looking to do in like a sequel or a subsequent film. Is just go back to Themyscira, because again, like you said, Lisa, the Wonder Woman could be 3 movies. For me, I would have enjoyed if the first Wonder Woman film was just Themyscira, and because I want to know, well, what do they do on them? Like, what are they training for? Like, if they're here for mankind, how come they haven't left to go do shit in our world? Like, so what's going on with Themyscira? Like, that could have been a movie just, that could have been the first film just for me. So I think that, if that could be explored more, I think they could maybe do that. I would like to see them do it in a sequel or something like that. But I agree, like, there's a lot there that is unsaid, which leaves things unclear for me.
No.
Speak your mind, Billy.
Okay. I'm all like, this is interesting to me. I think so the way that you're talking about the movie and the way that you're breaking it down, to me, it sounds more from a perspective of this is what the viewing experience was like for me, and what are they kind of bringing to the movie, and how do all the characters work, and what are they doing with the mythology of the comic books and all that sort of stuff, which I don't really take issue with. I think that's fine, and I am kind of curious where they're going to go with it and all that sort of stuff. But for me, the movie is not about that. Diana doesn't know any of those things, and the movie, from point A to point B, final destination, however you want to break that up, is about her learning that the world is more complex than it seems like from the outset. And necessarily, you have to start from the beginning of that journey from her perspective, where everything is a storybook villain to her. I think it's absolutely essential to what the movie is trying to do that she does not understand that Ludendorff is not Ares.
Right. So that's what's weird to me, right, is... she is so naive for so much of this film.
But I don't think it's exactly naive. I'm sorry, I don't interrupt. Please.
Well, I feel like she is being constantly mansplained by Steve Trevor about the realities of the Great War and London and the social climate at the time. And, she is butting heads against everything that he is telling her. But she thinks Ludendorff is Ares. She goes to battle. Her mission is to assassinate Ludendorff. When she does that, things will get better. She does that, discovers that, nope, didn't actually do what I wanted to do. Maybe Steve Trevor's right. We do have to fight this in a more global sense. Man's more than just a god whispering in my ear. And then Ares is revealed to be fucking, Lupin from Harry Potter. And Ares is a thing. And we are going to have this massive god fight. And I am going to kill this fucking god. And when that god is killed, does the entire world go back to normal? But you do have these odd scenes where these German soldiers and British soldiers are walking around dazed, and they do feel like a cloud has been lifted. And it's like this weird, it's two philosophies that never gel.
Yeah, because I didn't understand that. So like that guy, the Native American guy, like there was a soldier that got up next to him and was like, "Oh shit!" Like was that was a German, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so was Diana right?
Yeah, kind of,
Like,
but
so
not
once
kind of.
Or maybe they're just relieved that the big god guy who was smashing shit is gone.
They all just experienced some stuff together.
They did. They did.
I guess. But in that way, it makes it fall in line with what Diana was saying and how it was executing that. If you kill this guy, then the people that are under his influence, they won't be under his influence anymore. So
But let's let Billy make his point, and then I have a point after Billy. Let's line up. Let's queue up.
Let's line up points. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that movie hinges on that final argument, right? And I think if you don't buy in full heart to the transition that they're trying to make in Diana as a character and understanding of the complexities of the world, that I do think that the movie can feel like it's missing some stuff. I agree it's an awkward moment where the German soldier gets up and kind of hugs the chief, but it's not that awkward because the chief has buds on the German side too, and they flat out tell you that.
That's
in the
not
movie.
what that movie's doing though at that moment.
No,
Billy.
it's not. But I think so. What do I think? I think that the issue is that the way that the English Lord, right? I forget who Lupin is. Now you said Lupin,
Sir Patrick,
right? So Sir Patrick, the way that Sir Patrick executes his plan as Ares is that he is 100% about the peace accords, right? Peace at any cost. That's something that he totally buys into. And to me, so like if you look at the history of World War I and the way that it progresses in the aftermath of World War I, and the way that armistice translates into World War II,
he's trying to keep the war going into the next war.
It is an adult's villain, insidious plan that you actually saw fail in real life that led to not nearly as devastating a war, but one that we talk a lot more about in World War II. Like, I mean, World War I is the Great War. It is. It is the biggest war that we've had. It's not necessarily the most horrific,
it is the perfect setting for a film dealing with Ares and Wonder Woman.
Yeah, right. And I think that experience in World War I is essential because, like, I think that you look at a movie where the world is consumed by war in a way that it's never been before because we suddenly have the power to project forces in other places and pour men into the war machine and grind them up. Like, that's the first time that we've been able to do that.
Conceptually, it's perfect.
It is. Conceptually, it's perfect. But that's the distinction between Ludendorff and Sir Patrick, is that Ludendorff is the guy that you want. Like, you want there to be a villain. You want there to be a bad guy, and without him, all of this doesn't happen. And for like, just for me, you take away Wonder Woman, the movie, and all this sort of stuff, but like my history and my personal interaction with the way that peace is built, and the way that you can fail at making peace, and the way that you can have people who are mutually interested in coming to a meaningful resolution utterly fail to do something that actually preserves peace in the long run. Like, that to me is insidious, and I think that the movie genuinely does tip its cap to that in the favor. Like, I buy wholeheartedly into what they're trying to do. I don't think it's 100% perfect execution of it, but I think that the way that they show her journey, where she learns that there is gray areas and she learns that there's a complexity to people, what they're doing. Like, it's a revelation to her that Steve Trevor lies to his boss.
Right.
She's like, what the fuck, you lied to him? And he's like, yeah, like, that's what I do, you know? And when they're walking to the front, she says, well, that dude is a liar and a thief and a murderer. And he's like, well, I'm a liar and a thief and a murderer. Like, she doesn't understand that there are complexities of interaction like that. Like, I don't look at those moments as mansplaining. I look at those moments as her butting heads with a bunch of bullshit in the way that the world is set up, but then her also butting heads with the reality of life, which is that shit is complicated, and it is not as simple as killing one villain and fixing things. And I don't think that the end necessarily tips that because she kills Ares, like, all of a sudden it's better, but it does feel like that.
It gives her idea a nod, and it accepts her point of view, and it accepts Steve Trevor's point of view, and they cannot exist together the way it's presented in that film.
No, I just disagree.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Agree to disagree. Yeah. Lisa, you had a point.
Okay, so my point was, I never completely bought into Steve Trevor and Diana's relationship. And the fact that their relationship did not ring true made the climax of the film and their exchange at the end of the film, that was ultimately the revelation that's supposed to create her life philosophy, unfounded to me. I did feel like Steve Trevor was taking point for far too much of the film, kind of aiming her like a weapon, and you know, instead of her making her own decisions for most of the film, to the point of the when he sees the big piece of metal on the ground and he's the one who says shield and she jumps onto the building. That should have been her call. She should have been able to
call
look.
The shots.
She should be calling the shots in battle.
She should have just jumped. Like, why does she need that thing?
Honestly, the moment the Howling Commandos show up, the film takes a tremendous nosedive for me. I cannot stand Spud from Train Spotting in this movie.
No,
I
like that.
I love that actor. I love him in a bunch of movies, but he is a cartoon character. And then the Chief shows up, and that guy is an abysmal actor.
It's not a cartoon movie, though.
No. They are acting in a different film that we were presented in the first 2 acts of this movie.
I just don't see why, like, Scottish people are still on the table for stereotypes. You know, I think that you can have, you know, it's just like, oh, we need a Scottish guy. What is he going to do? He's going to lift his kilt and drink a lot and sing.
And there's this whole subplot with him not being able to pull a trigger that goes nowhere.
He never does. Way to go.
And they distract so much from what I am interested in, and that is Wonder Woman, Diana, Steve Trevor, sure. And like that action scene that's at the front is such an amazing moment when she finally, you know, disrobes and enters no man's land and takes on the bullets, deflects them with her bracelets, whips out the shield, and inspires those soldiers to get out of their trench and lead the charge.
Right.
That is an epically awesome moment.
And beautiful
Junkie
action.
XL's score kicks in.
Yeah.
Like stunning action in this film.
And then the siege on that town also is like exceptional, and she's whipping out the lasso truth, and it is just so awesome to see. All the hair on my arms goes up. That's why, again, when you finally get to Ares, it pales so much in comparison to the real battle that is occurring.
But then also after the French town, the town,
right.
They then go and they presumably sleep together. And I don't see any reason for her to sleep with him at all. I mean, you can tell that he's confused by her and enchanted by her beauty, but I did feel like kind of chemistry from his side towards her, you know, and he was clearly, you know, stunned by her. But there was absolutely no incentive for her to fall in love with him and for them to sleep together, other than so that she doesn't enter Justice League with her V card, which Captain America did. He entered the contemporary time still holding his V card, which I think makes him the best.
I think, wow. I don't have an issue. I don't know. I can forgive them sleeping together. I mean, she's never been with a man, and you know.
Yeah, but she's not even curious.
Hold on.
And I don't know if she's necessarily, you know.
Hold on. I said I can forgive that, but the whole "I love you" thing
at the end was,
like that, I didn't buy.
It was completely tacked
like because
on.
I mean, for me, what's presented in the film, I did not see anything that would make me believe that they would fall in love, or he would fall in love with her. I really like you. I think you're dope. I wish I wasn't going to die now, so we could go hang out and date, so I could see where this could lead to.
But if you are Steve Trevor and you're going off on your suicide mission, you got to say I love you to somebody. And
yeah, I didn't find that all that weird. Honestly.
I'm not saying it was weird. I just didn't buy it. Like
I didn't buy the love story aspect because there wasn't time.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Granted,
can we talk about villains now?
What's there to talk about?
Ludendorff and Dr. Maru, those scenes were cringeworthy. The worst.
Which ones?
All of them.
I love Danny Houston. The Proposition is one of my all-time favorite movies, and he is the ultimate despicable villain as Arthur Burns in that movie. But all he does now is play this character, and it drives me crazy. So even when I saw like the trailers and he is cast in this film, I'm already going, I know the performance we're going to get out of him. I kind of like Dr. Poison. I love that they use Dr. Poison. Again, because we're in the Great War, what classic Wonder Woman villain are we going to use? Well, we've got this character, Dr. Poison. We've got all this crazy chemical warfare going on. Boom. Perfect marriage between comic book and film. And I liked her moments with Steve Trevor at the party when they've gone undercover. Mm-hmm. I like that conversation a lot until she sees he's distracted by the insane beauty of Diana Prince. But Ludendorff, couldn't stand him.
Yeah, I don't know.
And Ares, I couldn't stand Ares.
The fact that like she was at least partially encouraged by some kind of weird like sexual attraction to Ludendorff, and she liked his attention, and the fact that she was becoming Dr. Poison for male attention, clearly, I think was a pretty weak choice, considering, you want a female villain. Like, why would she do it to get dudes?
There's a moment where they're killing a boardroom full of German officers, and Danny Houston tosses a mask into the crowd, and she's like, "Oh, well, the mask won't do anything," and he's like, "They won't know that." It felt like Batman 1966.
Yeah.
It felt like the Penguin and the Riddler sharing a laugh together. Ugh.
Yeah, no, their scenes were not my favorite.
I didn't have that big of an issue with them. I was actually taken by the twist that the St. Patrick was actually Aries.
I called it because I was going, well, clearly the guy who's obviously like who she thinks is Aries is not going to be Aries because duh. So I'm going like, well, who is the one who is maintaining the discontent? Who is the one who is postponing any strong action? Oh, it's Lupin.
Yeah, unfortunately, like the internet had spoiled that for me like a year ago.
Oh, wow. Really?
Like 6 months ago.
Because I turned to, like, after like he was revealed, I turned to Brad and I was like, "Did you know he was Aries?" And Brad was like,
Lupin.
The only thing I didn't like about Aries was
I thought that was
at the
called.
end, like, I just felt like with, like you mentioned, like how strong and inventive like the earlier action scenes were. I mean, there were people. I was gonna say they were women, but just, they were women like doing stunts with
audience.
horses.
Oh yeah,
that I've never seen in a film before. Like they're flipping backwards off of the horse's side saddle, like shooting bows. I mean, there was so many new things that I had never seen in the film before. Like that one sequence when Wonder Woman, she first steps out to No Man's Land, then she makes her way into that town. She jumps into that window, and that's part of that sequence is, or a lot of that sequence is in the trailer. When she's clearing those guys out, like that shit is amazing. Like I wanted to see more stuff like that. But then like when they have the battle with Ares, again, so there's these undefined like power sets. Like he's pulling up the earth, and okay, if he can do that, it's cool. I'll buy into that. But then he's just hurling stuff at her, and I'm thinking like, all right, well, she's a god. You want her and her power on your side. So why are you just throwing like inanimate objects at her? She's a god. You can't kill her with shit like that. Like, so that just didn't make sense to me. That didn't seem smart because all the other action sequences and the choreography and what she was doing, like the way she was fighting with those gentlemen in that town when she jumped in that room, where she was taking out opponents and how she was using acrobatics to maneuver throughout that room and close space. Like all of that stuff like made sense to me, like from a construction standpoint and an actual combat standpoint. Like all of those things like made sense to me. It felt like there was thought put into that. But like that last conflict between her and Ares, it just felt like, well, let's just have him shoot beams. She'll shoot a beam at him and he'll just throw shit at her. Like why is he making like wood planks or metal beams like hit her? Like he knows she's a god that can't do anything. So that for me, like I just found that lackluster compared to the other action sequences.
He's just trying to ruin her self-esteem and make her feel weak, just like every woman.
I guess.
I don't know. Okay.
I guess. But I mean, I thought that I love like when she gets the lightning on her gauntlets. I like how she was just looking at him and realizing that, well, shit, I can harness this, and shit, Zeus is my dad. This is my dad, so I'm good.
You don't try and kill Zeus's daughter with lightning. What the fuck? What are you doing?
No,
that's not smart.
No, that's not. So, yeah, again, that's not smart. Like, dude, that her pops that's his thing. That's his party trick. Like, why are you trying to kill her with her pops' thing? So, like,
that was the only not smart thing that I think he did, though. I think the rest of the fight is not about him killing her. I think it's about him winning an argument that he's having. And I don't necessarily like the way that they do the fight, because I think that those are kind of valid criticisms when they get to the god fights like that. But when she's fighting in the city, that's the world of man that she's fighting in, and she's using training that she used, that's harnessed from combat from the women who taught her how to fight. When she fights a god, gods don't fight like that. Like they just don't. It has to be different. I'm not saying that it has to be like that, but it has to be different.
Yeah, right? I mean, I don't mind different, but if it's going to be different, like let it be different from god fights I've seen before.
But here's how I look at that final fight, and I don't necessarily like invalidate the criticism that you bring to it there. I look at it. Gods don't fight like physical battles like that. They don't. They can kill each other. They can murder each other. That's fine, whatever. But gods fight in ideas, and what their entire final confrontation about is a battle for ideas. It's about whether or not humanity deserves to continue to exist and whether or not they need to start over. And it's about her having to have that conversation with him in the midst of realizing that humanity really is not that deserving. And that's why that moment is essential to her, where she has to come to the conclusion that it doesn't matter that they deserve it. It matters what she can do. And that's the war of ideas that they're having through the course of that. And all that other shit is just like, well, that's DCEU, where they're like, just throw some shit around the screen. And
that's my issue. Like the war of ideas, like all of that, that's cool. Like I didn't have any issue with that. It's just like the bookend to that. Like,
I just look over that stuff because I'm connecting more with the other things. And so I think it doesn't bother me like watching that happen, because I appreciate that it has to be different. I don't know what I would put in its stead. So
yeah, and so she generates like this force field when he's hurling these things at her. So I was going to ask you, Brad, like, is that something that she does in the comic books?
Well, it depends on which version.
Yeah.
I mean, so in the New 52 run that Brian Azzarello did, that's where they changed the origin of the character that had been for 75 years, where she was a clay baby that was prayed for into creation by Hippolyta. In the New 52 version, you learn that she is a demigod, that she is brothers with Apollo, she is a brother of Ares, she is a daughter of Zeus. And in that film, in that comic, there is a really great moment where she talks about the cuffs being off, and she channels the lightning. She challenges her parentage, and in the comic, it is epic.
Yeah.
And honestly, even watching it in this film, I loved that moment. Mm-hmm. I really, really liked that. And actually, anytime she did anything with the cuffs in this film, I was giddy.
Do you know, though, what's so important about that to me is that the end of this movie established her as a full-fledged god, and that 100 from the earlier tribute to the Richard Donner Superman film in the alleyway where she does that, they finish with her coming down after defeating another god in combat, where she 100% in Justice League, or inevitably whenever her and Superman disagree about what it is that they want to do, she is 100% going to be equal with him in the screen. This universe that they've set up, she is no fool and an equal with him, and she doesn't have to go along with him if she does not agree with what he's doing because he is superior to her in some way. He is not.
Oh, I got that from BVS. Like with just how that was the cool thing about Wonder Woman in BVS, and with what little she was there, and just small remarks like, I fought things from other worlds before, like just things like that, like, and then seeing her fight with Doomsday and seeing her smirk and seeing her be there with her lasso, holding him so that Bruce can take the shot and Superman can take the shot. Like, I knew, because it got to that point where it wasn't anything Batman could do. There was a quick moment in BVS when they were when Diana and Superman were fighting Doomsday, where Batman was just watching because he was like, "Shit, I'm out of league right now. I can go grab this gun and shoot some green smoke in his face, but that's about it." And at that moment, it was Diana and Superman who were holding off Doomsday. And at that moment, I was like, "Okay, she's just as powerful as Superman."
Well, so here's my basic thoughts on the movie overall is that is what is so important about Wonder Woman, is that what BVS puts out there for Wonder Woman as a character who may be equal to Superman, Wonder Woman says that is so. And it doesn't let you, well, if you want to think that Wonder Woman is dope as Superman, you can think that. We're not going to say it's not, but we're not going to spend a lot of time showing you that it is so. And they invested, $150 million in making a movie to give us the ability to say, yeah, no shit, she is as good as him. And I think that that's hugely, hugely important. And it actually heartens me to the future of the DC Extended Universe, where I am not positive on the direction that they are going as a shared cinematic universe. It heartens me that they are taking interest in the characters that are being created in a way that I did not see them in, especially in Batman vs Superman, take that same interest in showing you who these characters are. I know that's not a dig on you, Darren. I know that you're into that movie, and I'm not necessarily trying to pick a fight with that. That's the subjective experience of watching a movie. And so for me, that's what I take away from Wonder Woman, is that they took the time to show us. Yeah, no shit. What you saw in BVS, that's real.
They show us in this film, they show us that she is the strongest, and they show that she is the prettiest, but they do not show that she is the smartest, which I personally find a little disappointing. And once we leave Themyscira, there are no more female characters except for the secretary, who is a comic relief. After Themyscira, Wonder Woman does not pass the Bechdel test. On Themyscira, it does not pass the Bechdel test. All they talk about is Ares, who is a man, and then once they leave Themyscira, you never have two women talking, except for to buy clothes. So to me, I think that Wonder Woman could have been more decisive and could have been. And I understand we're doing the fish out of water story, but I think that we could have seen more of her being strong and more of her being defiant and less of her taking orders from Trevor.
I don't want to disagree with that. I mean, because I think
I love the response to this film. I love that it is making so much money and that people are so enthused about it, because that means that more films with characters like Wonder Woman are going to be made. And I'm certainly going to see this film again. I already have tickets to see this film again because I'm voting with my dollars. And from this film, I've fallen in love with Wonder Woman. I've gone right into reading the New 52 Wonder Woman that Brad was talking about. And she, that Wonder Woman runs the show. She is fighting with gods. She is traveling all over the place. And I don't know. This is very an origin story, and I understand that.
I mean, that's the tricky thing. It is an origin story. It is about having the veil removed and seeing the reality of the human race in comparison with her beliefs from Themyscira.
I think it could have been more emotionally grounded as well. She could have been more moved by the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah. There are moments that I feel that does occur. I feel like when she is walking into the trenches and she sees those soldiers, or when she's crossing the bridge and the soldiers that are coming back towards her, the walking wounded, she is moved by the horror and the fact that this horror is continuing when it is absolutely so utterly insane. And therefore it has to be the act of a god.
Right. But then after she believes she kills Ares, and nothing happens, and Steve Trevor is off to go solve the problem. What does she do? I'll just wait.
I mean, I really dislike her looking up into the sky and seeing her boyfriend blow up, and that being like an emotional anger, heroic wake up call.
I don't mind that so much.
And I wish that she reached that confidence and that strength that you see in the comic books sooner, certainly. And I think that would have happened if you had excised out several of the characters.
Right. I have my fantasy, this should be 3 movies. I feel like they're trying to gear up for Justice League, and so we've got to do all of Wonder Woman's origins right now so that she's ready to fight in Justice League, where it would have been better if she was like Iron Man and got 3 films and we got to see an entire arc of who she is before the big team up film. I I feel that Marvel envy of let's catch the fuck up so we can do our big team up film. And I think that it's doing characters like Wonder Woman a disservice.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what they did with Captain America in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, the first Captain America movie is a goddamn mess of montages.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Although I do like...
Do you know what there wasn't? There was only one of in Wonder Woman was a fucking montage sequence to catch you up.
Yeah.
Just one. Captain America did it fucking 5. Yeah. 4? It's 4 or 5.
I mean, the entire World War in Captain America is wrapped up in a montage or
it's
couple
montage. Literally, World War II is one in a montage, and then the final part of the movie is them wrapping up the war. Like it's got issues. Like that's I think that's shared universe problems is sort of the way that I look at it.
Right.
It should be so. Do you know what should have been the first fucking movie in this? Is not Man of Steel. It should have been Wonder Woman because Wonder Woman's a better fucking character, but it's not.
I'm not that huge a fan of Man of Steel.
I don't know. I think that I don't know. We're not going to have this. That's like an entire other podcast.
No, it is.
I think that all three, the Trinity, are incredibly valid, and at different points in my life have all been my favorite character. Right now, Wonder Woman is my favorite character. The second I finish rereading All Star Superman's my favorite character.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
That's just how it works. It all depends on who is writing those characters.
No, it does.
For how and why you love them.
I guess I don't disagree with some of the specific criticisms of Wonder Woman that I've seen, or at least that you guys have raised here in particular. I am more heartened by this movie than I am put down by the small failures that I see in it. And I did not feel that way about Batman versus Superman. I did not feel that way about Suicide Squad. I saw the failures in those movies and they frustrated me because I wanted something different out of them. And I don't think that Batman versus Superman is necessarily a bad movie. That's just not what I wanted out of that universe. It just isn't. And that's fine. I don't put that movie down, but like Wonder Woman is the direction that I want to see them go. I see a very heartful effort to explore some very complicated issues. And I think especially considering that this is the first like major tentpole blockbuster feature for giving the titular character. I don't fucking count Elektra. I hate that movie so much. Daredevil and Elektra both.
Is Elektra the first one?
I think if you go technically comic book characters, Red Sonja counts as the first one. And it goes Red Sonja, then it goes Catwoman, and then Elektra, I think, is the order of it. So that's
insane.
And Tank Girl is in there.
Oh, so Tank Girl.
There's the 4...
Kill Bill.
Yeah, that's action themed movies that feature women.
Kill Bill is one of the greatest comic book movies, based on not a comic book.
Agree. Yes, totally. I was like, wait, what? I missed that comic. But I am heartened by the direction that they're going, and I feel in the creation of it, I feel stumbling blocks of trying to tell a new story, but. I really like, but I guess that's the thing that I always do is I connect with the filmmakers and I connect with what they're trying to do. And that's the way that I experience movies. And I connect wholeheartedly with what Patty Jenkins is doing. And because of the buy-in and the seriousness that she gives to Themyscira at the start of it, I accept the challenging encounters that she has in the rest of the movie because it's set up as going into the world of man. I don't think you're necessarily wrong in what your frustration is with that. I don't. I think that it maybe could have done more artfully, and I think it maybe could have done more delicately, but they didn't have the time to do it more delicately than that. And so I am content with the 80% solution, maybe to a certain extent, that they had to put together for the plot to make that happen, to get it where it needed to go.
I too am heartened. I'm heartened by the reaction of people and like the enthusiasm anticipating this film. People being so excited to see a female superhero. And I did come away ultimately liking and appreciating the film. But in terms of it being like this feminist blockbuster film, I just feel like it falls a little short because of her relationship with Steve Trevor and the level of naivete that's maintained throughout the film. So to me, I go like, I'm super excited about seeing her be folded into this universe and her to fight alongside these other heroes that maintain this level of reverence and respect from nerd filmgoers. But I do miss the level of sophistication that could be in a superhero movie. And I've seen that level of sophistication in other films with male characters. So to me, I just feel like somebody like Wonder Woman deserves the kind of care and respect and sophistication.
Well, and it's happening, and I think Gal Gadot is
she's perfect.
Perfect as
she is
Wonder
perfect.
Woman.
I even think that Chris Pine was really, really wonderful, and them playing against each other was wonderful. I just felt like parts of their story were mishandled.
And I'm more.
I don't think that you get that complexity of. So, like, I look at Captain America. I mean, that's the easy analogous, right, for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because
I would
it's
say
a person
Thor.
Out of time. Well, I could see Thor too, but you don't get a more complex character in Captain America until Winter Soldier. Like he is all like just base broad strokes. I believe in sacrifice and I believe in fighting the good fight, and that's how he applies himself through the entirety of that movie. And
but he's
not
not
get to
being
that
led
stuff.
through the film by another character explaining to him what life is.
I mean, I think both. I think First Avenger has serious issues, and I'm not going to lift that film above this film because they're both problematic in my opinion. And I think, like what you got with Winter Soldier and the further escapades of Steve Rogers, what we get from this version of Wonder Woman will only get better.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's what I come away from it thinking, is that I actually am optimistic with the way that they're going to use her.
And I'm super excited to see her in Justice League. And I want her to take front and center.
Justice League just sold a shit lot more tickets because of Wonder Woman.
I agree. I totally agree.
If you look at the marketing, yeah, Batman's in it, but Wonder Woman is in, and I guarantee, like the next trailer they cut is she's going to be.
It's got to
in
be
a lot
Wonder
more.
Woman, 100% featuring Wonder Woman.
More. And because when I saw the Justice League trailer today, the thing that stuck out to me again was that I like that they haven't shown Superman, and because I mean obviously I know he's coming back, but I like that they're showing restraint and showing him and allowing these other characters to be in the marketing or be in the film, and I like at the one of the second to last shot before you get Aquaman on the Batmobile, the hero shot is Wonder Woman leaping down, coming into the frame. It's front and center, and Batman's on her right, Cyborg's behind her, Flash is there. I like that she's prominent and it seems like she's prominent in the story.
I am hopeful that she will lead the team.
I think that after Wonder Woman, this film that just got released, I'm almost positive that the interest in Justice League just went up for people who maybe weren't checking for it.
It did for me. I like Jason Momoa. I'm interested in the idea that Justice League is going to exist, but I saw the trailers and I'll go see it. Of course, I'm going to go see it. I go see movies at the theater. Like that's what I do when they come out. It's a comic book movie. I'm interested, but it was one of those things. Was like, well, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go move on to the next thing. But I suddenly got interested in it again.
Yeah. So. That's cool. You're welcome, Zack Snyder
And
Patty Jenkins.
I really have to stress back to the basic idea of Wonder Woman being this champion of empathy. The fact that she is fighting your fight, and how incredibly important that message is right now.
Yeah,
and I hope that's the thing with people, man. I hope that there are at least a small portion of the population who take that from this film instead of just for guys just oogling over Gal Gadot.
No,
but that's what most of the movie was, right?
But
I understand.
Everything in London, every joke in London is about how pretty she was.
And that I'm not in. Lisa's right, and so, but I hope that
not every joke, the ice cream joke. Is
I love
classic.
that.
That was
Especially
adorable.
just seeing that in Justice League War, the animated thing. Oh man, I love that was in there. But I hope that this, if they don't take it from this movie, I hope that the conversation and like you said, Lisa, people's reactions to it, like women and girls. Like I've said on the podcast before, I was really excited to see it,
Mm-hmm.
but then I was like, you know what, go see it with your mom, because I can be selfish and say, of her two parents, I'm the cinephile. I'm the one that movies mattered the most to. But if I were a daughter, and I would want to go see that with my mother, I would want to have that experience. And so I said, go see that with your mom. So I would hope that, little girls and women, like the woman I sat next to today, the young lady who was with her daughter, like, I hope that they take that empathy and what you said, what Wonder Woman's standing for, or I hope they see this film and then, like Lisa, dive into the comics and then get that understanding of what Wonder Woman is and what she's supposed to be.
I was talking to coworkers who have never talked movies with me, asking me, can I take my daughter to see this? Should I take my daughter to see this? And the reason, and they've never asked me about superhero movies before. And I have cosplayed at work. Yes, so cool. And people who are women and parents of women are excited to take their kids to see a comic movie because of a woman superhero.
Honestly, the movie's been out for just like 3 days, right? It's Sunday as we're recording this. The conversation around Wonder Woman is stronger and more intense than, I mean, what was the last film that took over not only your Twitter feed and your Facebook and your Instagram, but your break room conversation at work?
Get Out.
I mean, not
at my work.
Not necessarily not at my work, and not to the level that I'm seeing with Wonder Woman in 3 days. Get Out, the conversation lasted a long time and is continuing to reach as that film hits more people. But Get Out didn't hit as many people as this film did in 3 days.
And where I work with a lot of women, and I work with a lot of parents, and parents of girls are interested in this film who have never been interested in superhero movies before, and I think that is awesome.
And this film is being embraced in a really wonderful way and in an exciting way, and I'm thrilled to see the reaction to this movie.
And the action is stunning. Yeah. I found the action engaging when I never find action engaging.
And my misgivings with the film aside, which I do not apologize for in any way. No, I'm just saying I do understand and recognize and appreciate how important this film is. Again, as a father to a little girl. But even if I didn't have Sia, I have a sister. I have a mother. I have cousins, female cousins. I know I have female friends who have daughters. I'm sympathetic to everyone. So I know I've had my 40 years of dudes in tights and, my John Wicks and my Superman and my Batman. I've had that. But they need this. Like, we all need this. It's not even just for my daughter. Like I need this. Like, Wonder Woman isn't going out to the world to only save women. She's supposed to go save everyone. Well, but I appreciate like what this, I'm telling you today, watching Wonder Woman for the third time, the best part of that experience was sitting next to that lady who was with her daughter, and that woman having multiple audio responses to the beats that hit for her, and it was throughout the film. She cried when Diana left the island. She cried and gasped when she walked across no man's land. She cheered, and she didn't really cheer. She had this weird noise body thing when Diana jumped across the ravine and she grabbed onto the thing. She didn't say anything, but when Diana started to fall, and then she started gripping into the wall and climbing up the wall, punching into the wall, displaying that act of strength. Like, that woman just lost her shit, and I was just thinking, like, man, like, that's awesome for her, because that's the first time, like, she's seen not only just Wonder Woman, but a female superhero be strong in that way. Steve Trevor was not hoisting her up on the fucking side of the wall. She was being strong and superhuman. Like, and just watching that movie with that woman, and I was just thinking, like, man, there are thousands and millions of women all across the America.
I think we shouldn't forget also that I'm a woman.
Yes, Lisa.
What?
Okay.
I didn't get to see it. I didn't get to see it with you. Lisa.
I don't know. I don't know. I think that we shouldn't forget that, though.
Well, what do you mean?
That I'm a woman, and I'm watching this film, and I'm watching this woman not be treated like a male superhero. Like, you're going, well, what's the difference between the plot problems in Captain America and the plot problems in Wonder Woman? in Captain America, he has scenes where he makes decisions by himself. Wonder Woman has someone informing all of her decisions the whole time.
But I don't think it's all of her decisions the whole time. I think the final third act of the movie is because she chooses not to follow along with what Steve Trevor wants to do. Like, the whole course of the final event of the movie are changed because she decides to cross no man's land.
Yes.
And again, that's why I'm unapologetic. So I want to say this. Before, like, after I saw Wonder Woman, right, I was like, shit, it took a while for me to rate it on Letterboxd. I didn't even rate my first experience with it. I rated it the second time I saw it.
Letterboxd shy. You gotta.
Because
Well, you have to. I think it's important.
So
I think this film is hard.
So I'm thinking about, all right, well, we got to record and talk about this. So I'm thinking, like, all right, so how, like, if a guy, and I'm taking social media into account too, and people who review films, I'm thinking, all right, if a guy has issues with this movie because everyone else is giving it 5 stars, and this is a movie about Wonder Woman, and this is her first film. Like, so if a guy has issues with the film, is it going to be like this gray area or fine line between, like, is he going to be allowed to critique this film without being a chauvinist or an anti-feminist, or do you understand what I'm saying?
Right? No, I totally understand.
So I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just maybe put a disclaimer out there, but I'm going to be unapologetic. I'm going to view, at the end of the day, yes, it's a Wonder Woman film. It's the first Wonder Woman film, but it's a film. So as someone who reviews movies and we critique movies on the podcast, I'm going to stay true to that. I'm going to hold it to, like, okay, do I have issues with scripts, editing, and shot composition, whatever, in any other film? Then I'll hold this film to those same standards. But to hear you say that you have issue with the film was something that I thought about. I was like, okay, I wonder if there are any women out there who either thought the film was just okay or just didn't dig it. And so I was curious to see, like, well, is it going to be cool that they have issues with it and then not cool when I have issues with it? I was wondering how that was going to play out. But I was surprised to see, because I saw you gave it 3 stars.
I did.
So I thought that was, you enjoyed it. But I was surprised to see that you had the issues you did. But then again, seeing that, well, yeah, you are looking at it from a subjective, but you're still holding it to, the same standards. Like if it was a guy in a movie, like you said, Captain America gets to do these certain things, but this is a female-led superhero movie, but she doesn't get to do the same thing. So I don't
know. Maybe I'm holding it to a harsher standard.
But I don't think that's wrong, though, because that's the important thing. If everyone's saying that the reason why Wonder Woman is such an important film is because it's the first depiction of this iconic female superhero,
right?
Then if you're going to give Batman smart things to do and say, if you're going to give Captain America smart things to do and say, and I don't give a fuck if it's his first film, second, or third film, then you have to do that for Wonder Woman. If you're going to make this film be important because it is Wonder Woman and because girls and women have to look up to her and she's going to be smart, she's going to be strong, she's not going to be dependent on Batman or Superman, then you're right, Lisa. Like, she has to be able to make decisions on her own and not necessarily basically be treated script-wise, story-wise, narrative-wise, character-wise, thematically, as you would a male.
That's a lot of pressure to put on a movie, and that is a weird place to come from.
But that's inherent
with Wonder Woman being what it is. Right. I agree.
It's inherent in the nature of it being.
I do understand what you're saying about going, like, everybody's super excited about this movie, and I'm not as excited, and it's a little lonely. Like, I completely identify with this because I wanted... well, for one thing, I did go into the movie with my reservations. Why? Because I don't like magic, and I don't like gods and stuff. I find those things...
Hold on. But Lisa, let's stop right there with that sentence. You're 4 trade paperbacks into
and I love
the
it.
mythological reimagining of the Wonder Woman story, where Brian Azzarello goes... full Greek gods. Now, Wonder Woman has always been a mythological comic. Zeus has been a character. Ares has always been there. But Azzarello is going and trying to recreate a Greek myth with Wonder Woman in a very classical way.
Yeah.
And you're loving it.
I am loving it. But
so when you say you go in, you don't like magic and you don't like, you do.
I do. I like characters. That's really comes down to what I like. And with the Azzarello comic, all we're really introduced to each god one at a time, and each god has these complicated relationships and these complicated emotions, and it's a lot. It takes a lot longer than the movie, so you have that time to character build.
It's a family squabble book.
Yeah, but with Wonder Woman, I think that our attention is so spread out amongst all of these different storylines, and the character work does not get done.
I think, some of your problems with the film, Lisa, just rely on the fact that it is an origin story of Wonder Woman, and they've chosen to include, the plane crashing on Themyscira, the inciting incident. And in having that inciting incident, you have a relationship with this pilot, Steve Trevor, and the way that relationship has been portrayed in every variation of the origin story is it becomes a romantic story. And, personally, what I wanted out of the Wonder Woman film would be to remove that element and it to be solely a Diana story. And Steve Trevor makes things complicated for the way I want to see that character portrayed. I think they could, for my taste, and it seems like they did just fine for Billy and thousands of other people who've taken to the internet and Letterboxd and rated this film. But for me, it muddies the message I want to see from this character.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't reject the premise of the film.
You can do whatever you want.
You can't.
That's exactly what Azzarello did. He rejects the origin of Wonder Woman. He says, no, this is not a clay baby. She is the daughter of Zeus, and that is the inciting incident for that entire run, and that transforms this story into something completely different.
You're saying that the film didn't show me what I wanted to see, and to me, I'm saying that I don't think that the film showed me what the film wanted to show me. Where they came, the statement at the end of the film was that she was going to fight because love exists. Love exists in the world, and that's what makes fighting the thing that you need to do. And I don't think that what happened in the film, the relationship between Steve Trevor and Diana led to that logical conclusion. I don't think that they had time for a love relationship. So I'm saying if you want your theme to be that Diana fights for love of humanity, then you have to establish aggressively a love story. And I don't think that came across.
Fair enough.
I know also Lisa doesn't like knights.
I also don't like knights, and she's
Ares,
like a Greek knight.
When Ares got his suit of armor at the end and made himself a knight today, when I was watching it, I was thinking, "Ooh, Lisa's probably not gonna like Ares because he looks like a knight."
Yeah.
She doesn't like those Spanish knights of Assassin's Creed.
I don't like. Anytime I see any kind of warrior, I'm like, this person's a fucking knight. Not into knights.
Oh man! All right. So yes, congratulations, Patty Jenkins, and everyone involved in the production of that, and everyone who took away what they wanted and what they needed from Wonder Woman. I wholeheartedly understand, because again, I said this before, like I'm probably like one of 3 people on the planet that love Man of Steel and BVS, and I don't care. Those movies give me what I need from those characters, and I respect, and I'm happy that there were thousands and millions of people this weekend, and potentially more, that are going to have that same experience from this character, because it's important and it's fair and it needs to happen. And so I'm genuinely glad, and I'm excited for her place in the DCEU moving forward. So thank you all for listening. Hit us up on social media with your thoughts and comments on the film. We can be reached at ItModcast on Twitter and Instagram, and at ItModcast on Facebook. Billy Das, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at WBDas and writing for Film School Rejects.
Wife Dork.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Sidewalk Siren.
And Brad Gullickson, Mouth Dork.
You can find me on all social medias at MouthDork. And if you're going to be in the DC area on June 17th, please attend AwesomeCon, where I will be a guest panelist for the Writing with Purpose panel featuring Emily Sears from Birth Movies Death and
So
Liz
cool.
Reed from Cuddles and Raids.
Oh, cool. I know them. Those are people I think are cool. Do you see what I did there?
Hey.
You can find the Turtle Dork on Twitter at the Turtle Dork, on Instagram at the Turtle Dork 1, and on Facebook at Brian William Young.
Is he off celebrating my dad's birthday?
I killed him.
I doubt it.
Sorry.
Dad?
Has he seen Wonder Woman? Have we seen his Letterboxd rating?
He has seen Wonder Woman, but he does not use Letterboxd. That's why I didn't even bother promoting his
Because
Letterboxd.
he has no spine.
Right. So yeah, you can, if you care to know what he thought of the film, hit him up on social media. He may do a YouTube review, so be on the lookout for that on the YouTube page of the It Podcast. I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, and if you want to find me and give me hell for my feelings on the film and my 3-star Letterboxd rating, you can do so at the Disco Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Letterboxd. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Go watch it again. And until next time.
I'm a woman.
What?